Now we're going to have our second panelist of people up, families up, and we'll have Hertencia Petersen, aunt of Akai Gurley, Joshua, I believe the cousin of John Collado. I have also Constance Malcolm, the mother of Marley Graham, come up. So Sevela Calory is up as well, cousin of Alton Sterling, sister of Meriam Carey. So we're very adaptive here with the panel, and so we want to be able to always create space for families when needed and to encourage them to speak their truth. And so again, thank you for joining us on the panel. And so we know that the first set of panelists were able to talk about a conversation about what justice and accountability looks like. And where we landed, it seemed like amongst the families that there were a variety of different perspectives around what it means for communities to have a say and how they want public safety to operate in their communities. And so I do want to open up some more dialogue amongst the audience around some questions around community control over the police and what that looks like. It sounded like many of the panelists were entering into that conversation. And so transitioning from that point to talk about really what does care and support look like for you and for your families that have been impacted by state-sanctioned violence, I really just want to start there. For many of you who have defined that you have not received justice for your loved one, what does just immediate care, support, and healing look like at a time where justice under this system is not achieved? What does care and support look like for you and your family?
Hi, my name is Constance Malcolm, the mother of Marley Graham. For me, as some of you might know, I didn't get any justice in my case. Yes, the officer was charged with manslaughter 1 and manslaughter 2, but we was going to court for a whole year, and then the judge decided to throw the case on a technicality. The feds came in and told us they're going to take the case, and they also told us they can't do nothing on March 8th. So my fight now is Mayor de Blasio to get these officers fired, and also they are withheld in the police officer name. They won't give us his over 12 officer that was involved in the shooting of my son. For me, is we gotta understand, like, we as family that lost loved one, and they forget that we have other kids that's involved, and a lot of time they are forgotten. We have people that come and they will say they're helping us, but they're out there for their own agenda. And this is a big problem. You'll have a lot of organizations say, I'm with the family, I'm for the family, but at the end of the day, they collect all this money and the family don't see a dime. It's not about the money, it's about the respect. We already lose our family and we're struggling. You might hear of people getting lawsuit and you hear whatever money. A lot of times, we don't even see that money till years later. And people don't understand that. We here fighting for a cause. We want justice. And justice for me look like, it might not bring my son back, but if you commit a crime like Ms. Carr said, you should do the time, because if we kill somebody, if we kill a cop, we go into prison. So I don't see why the scale is always on balance. I'm not from this country. I was born in Jamaica. They sell us a dream. We come to this country for a better life. Nobody want to leave their country, but we come here for a better life, not to bury our kids. Not to bury anyone. We just want change, just want a better life. And to come here and have something like this happen to us, it's really a shame. We have a Lady Liberty that stands in the water for liberty and justice for all, but who is liberty and justice for all for? It's not for us. We as black people are not being respected the way we should be respected. We have a black president and we can't even get people to respect him. So how are you going to get them to respect us? So we have to stand up and stop bending our backs and stand straight and let them know enough is enough.
Hi, my name is Joshua Lopez. I am the nephew of John Collado. He was murdered in 2011 by an undercover police officer. And you know, we all go through so much similarities. Like, our loved ones been murdered by police, and we have received no type of justice. And you know, I think it's time we start holding these police officers accountable, because if we would, our family members would probably be alive today. It's just like my brother Nicholas, if in 1994 he would have got justice for his son, maybe Tamir Rice would have been alive today. And, that's why I continue to fight, because in 1999, when I heard about what happened to Amadou Diallo, with 41 shots, he got murdered. It broke my heart, and I seen so much injustice going on to our people, our families, friends, and it bothered me. And so it became a little more personal when my uncle got murdered in 2011. And I think we all need to unite and love each other and support each other. It's the only way we're gonna beat the system.
Hi, my name is Hertencia Petersen. I'm the aunt of Akai Gurley, who was murdered November 20th, 2014 by Officer Peter Liang, which was a rookie cop, in Shonandao. From the time my nephew was murdered, my sister Sylvia Palmer, Akai's mom, has been in very heavy, depressive mode. There's no type of counseling available to her in Jacksonville, Florida, because that's where she lives. Not only is no counseling, she lives in a racist town. It is the same town where Jordan Davis was murdered. Up here in New York, for myself, if it was not for my team, Akai, Justice for Akai Gurley, Asede, Kirby, Shavon, and everyone, New York City shut it down, the activists and other family members, there's no healing. There's no type of resources for the grieving families, but there's resources for the police officers' wives, for their children, where our loved ones, in my nephew's case, he left her at the time Akai was 2.5 years old. Where is the trust fund for her education? New York City Police Commissioner did not set that up. On top of that, where is the home that she needs to be in as opposed to living in the projects? Where is the health insurance for her? There's nothing. There's nothing. Our children, our loved ones are being murdered, and the police department, the government, the state do not care about us. The Constitution says that we are 3/5 of a human being. What part of our body is 3/5 for them to realize and recognize that we have a say-so? My nephew, Akai, was a loving father, a loving son, a loving nephew. I don't care what my nephew, or I don't care what any one of our family members have done at that time when they was murdered senselessly. What crime were they doing? What were they doing where these police officers think it's okay to take another human's life? We as a community, we have to say enough is enough. On top of that, we have to start our own revolution because the government isn't doing it, Department of Justice isn't doing it. We have to do it. That's why we're out there keeping our loved one's name out there, so you never forget, because these officers, they move on to the next body. Not only that, you want to get a pay raise, join the NYPD. You kill a black man, you get 30 days death service, and then on top of that, 2-3 years down the line, you get a promotion. That's what it is. NYPD is the biggest gang. It's the biggest gang. The War of Blue, we as a community and we as a people, and I say we, it takes all of us. I don't care what color you are, because when you bleed, it's red. When I bleed, it's red. The only difference is my mama kept me in a little longer and your mother didn't. That's the whole thing. You know, people think it's okay. Yes, our loved ones was murdered. Give us money. Money can't buy me. I don't care. All the money in the world could never bring our loved ones back. Because at that dinner table, Thanksgiving, Mother's Day, Father's Day, there's always going to be an empty spot. 2 weeks ago, it's going on 2 years, November come, and I have yet. 2 weeks ago, I went out to finally see where my nephew is laid. That's how us, people of color, police brutality family members have to spend the days, the holidays, the birthdays at a gravesite. Is that fair to us? No, it is not. Until we get together and until we make our priorities each other's lives, as opposed to Jordans, as opposed to money, as opposed to the newest gadget, no, our priorities as black people is screwed up. Our life is more precious than sneakers. Our life is more precious than money. Money cannot buy. Me, I don't trust politicians. I don't trust police officers. I will never endorse anyone that is not speaking my language. And my language is, what are you going to do for police brutality families? Are you going to hold these officers accountable? Because if you're not holding them accountable, you're not doing anything for me or my family. I'm not going to endorse anyone, because when my loved one was murdered, they was not there. They didn't send a flower, they didn't send a card, not even a phone call. So this system, we can dismantle this system. We can defund the NYPD. But we have to have a made-up mind that that's what we want to do and get our priorities in check.
Hi, I'm Valerie Carey, sister of Meriam Carey. When Meriam was killed in 2013, she left behind her 13-month-old baby. And as far as self-care and speaking about what it is that we can do when a family has suffered a tragic loss by the hands of the police, there are no resources that are offered to the family from agencies. I totally cannot or do not expect the government or the police departments who are involved in the shooting, killing of my sister to come and offer some sort of assistance. I can't expect that. However, that is something that my family definitely needed then, still can use now. Counseling. How do you deal with the fact that your family member was killed for no apparent reason? Police officers aren't supposed to kill people. They're there to serve and protect, to enforce laws. They're not executioners, they're not juries. So to take someone's life, that's not what they're out there to do. And it's very unfortunate because when these incidents happen, and particularly I'm speaking from my personal experience, you have family and friends that come and support you, but they can only do but so much. There are other things that the family needs, and we're not talking about finances. We're talking about emotional support, how to navigate things, because right now, and even still, you're fighting for justice. You're trying to get those that are responsible for the death to be held accountable. And in Meriam's case, which happened in our capital of the nation, the names of the officers still have not been released. And although we have FOIA'd through information, the act of, yes, you know, The information that we received was highly redacted, so the officers' names have been blacked out. So how can healing begin when you don't know who murdered your loved one? You don't know whether or not they're still employed because you don't have their identity. Officers do not have the right to privacy. And so I'm speaking out for my family member, but I'm just one voice. And so for others to know, you wouldn't want someone to be in that position and then have to go through the same thing. You would want, if God forbid, your family member were killed by the police, you would want to know who that officer was, and you would want that officer to be held accountable. So as far as self-care is concerned, the families need to take time out for themselves, but you don't have time because you have to continue to go out and fight the fight and pursue justice and knock on doors and write letters to the senator and write letters to the president who actually don't respond to the letters. You write letters and your letters get ignored. You have your friends write letters and their letters get ignored. So as far as self-care is concerned, I feel that because you cannot rely on a system that has wronged you to help heal you, I feel that there should be resources, organizations that can create spaces for family members that have been affected by police violence so that they can, while they're working for justice for their family, be able to still take care of themselves because the body will break down. It's been 2 years and 9 months since my sister has been killed, and I have been petitioning and writing letters and making phone calls, and what's unfortunate is that individuals look at me as, well, you're well connected, you know a lot of people, but what good are connections and knowing people when no one is picking up your phone call? Nobody wants to pick up this hot potato. My sister was shot 5 times to the back, and she was criminalized in the media for them to justify the murder of her. My sister wasn't committing any crimes, but yet and still she was killed. And so for 2 years and 9 months, I've been fighting for my family. I'm like the spokesperson. And last month, when I found out, I was out trying to live life and be free. It's the 4th of July, and I hear that another black man was shot and killed by an officer, an off-duty officer. I come to find out that that person, Delrawn Dempsey, was the brother of a good friend of mine. And then the day after that, Alton Sterling was shot and killed on the ground, and he's my cousin. My head was literally about to explode because to see these injustices, but then for them to hit so close to home, and we still haven't gotten justice for Meriam. I totally had to log out of Facebook for days, and I really wish that I could have just went to a hotel and stayed by myself, and I just wanted to shut the world out. It is not easy. It's not easy at all. But yet and still, I have to continue and I have to move forward. And I'm sure there are other families that feel the same way. But what is it that we can do to fight the fight and take care of ourselves and have some sort of peace within while we're fighting for justice?
I want to stay on this line around just overall wellness for all of you, since you've just described really the emotional and economic toll and sacrifice, and to acknowledge that And to also say, because we're in a room of folks right now, like if you had to like really be detailed, and part of this panel is talking about reparations, right? Because we've already said, you know, we're not expecting the state to provide us any care or services. I guess it's a two-part question. One, what do you feel is owed to you by the state, given that they've taken your loved one? What can the state do? That's number one. To be able to bring some kind of reparations back, whatever that looks like for you. That can be monetary and material resources. And then the second question is, I think you mentioned an important point about the activist community, just in terms of Akai Gurley's case for one. Hertencia, I think you can speak about that. But also, I think this goes out to the movement. What can the movement do to be family-centered and organize immediate resources for families in particular? So one, what does the state owe you? And then two, how can the organizers and the activists in the movement nationally be family-centered and organize resources in a way that supports and sustains all of you and your wellness, so that the burden is lifted from you in a sense? It won't be totally, but what is the way that they can support?
And the way I believe the state can support is, number one, my niece, Akai Gurley, her future needs to be secured. That means the same schools that these officers' children will be attending, the colleges of her choice. That's number one. Number two, Sylvia Palmer's household, because Akai wasn't the only child. There was 4 other children under Akai. So therefore, my other nieces and my other nephews need to be taken care of by the state of New York. The mother needs continuously free counseling and support, whether it be financially, medically, because we know what medical bills look like, even for counseling. That needs to be taken care of. Whatever her financial situation is, that needs to be taken care of. Money, like I said, cannot bring Akai back. On the question of the activists, I have been fortunate and blessed to have Asede, Kirby, Shavon, and so many other activists. You know, they put their bodies on the line, on the forefront every single week, every single day. And I am fortunate. Number one, last March, I ended up in the hospital, stressed out, burnt out, trying to get justice for my nephew. My hospital bill, just for 3 days, was $95,000. Thank God for a good job with good insurance, because I didn't have to come out my pocket for anything. So, reparation towards Sylvia Palmer's household, Kimberly Ballinger's household, Akai Gurley is set for life. Akai's other siblings are set for life. And counseling, detailed, in-depth counseling. On top of that, the resources, we all have needs. We all have things that needs to be done. We all fell behind in bills fighting. My fight is, I feel that I haven't done enough for my nephew. My fight and my struggle daily is this. I fought the good fight. I've been knocked down. I got back up. It was a slap in the face for me personally, for Sylvia Palmer, and my entire family when the Brooklyn DA, Ken Thompson, recommended no jail time. That was a slap in the face. Yes, we have a black president. We have a black DA that don't care. We have to realize that. The DA his background is he was a former cop. So his allegiance is to the cop. We need to hold everyone, all of these officers, responsible. All we want is accountability. Say, you know what? Our officers messed up. And when you settle, don't say it's in the best interest of the state. It's not in the best interest of the state. The state is continuing to revolve. Monies is coming, monies is going. It should always be for the best interest of the family. Yes, these officers messed up. They was a little aggressive. They was too quick to pull the trigger. Whatever the scenario is, don't say, or just be held accountable. But don't say, okay, it's in best interest. We're going to give you guys some money. No amount of money can bring my nephew back. But I am on a mission, and that mission, until my breath is taken, is not only to get justice for Akai Gurley, but for every black, brown, Latino, or any person of color that did not have it, did not get it, going back technically to Rodney King. He didn't get it. Eleanor Bumpers, she didn't get it. You understand? Those are where it began. Until we realize and recognize that this is not only genocide, you have genocide, you have gentrification, everything to oppress us. You're having people coming into your neighborhood and just say, oh, well, we don't like you, you got to stop the noise, blah, blah, blah. You can't do that. You push us out. Where are we supposed to go? Where are we supposed to? The rents are raised, mortgage are raised. What are we supposed to do? Every which way we turn, we're being oppressed. We're being oppressed. When are we going to wake up? When are we going to see, hey, it's not about me, it's not about you, it's all about all of us collectively. Your son, your child, murder is not bigger than anyone, because in the end of the day, we all are grieving. We all have lost a loved one. And when we get that together, you know how much power we have? We have power. But we can't, we have to stop this. It's all about me, myself, and I. My case is bigger, this and that. It's nothing like that. It's nothing like that. We're in a fight for our life. I have 4 children. My oldest is 32. I have to check on him. My youngest is 20. I have to check on her. I have a grandson. Is it fair for me to call and say, did you make it to work on time? Did you make it to school on time? Are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. Any interactions? The other day, I was looking out my bedroom window and I saw my car with my son, my youngest son, sitting, waiting for his girlfriend to come out the house. And the police just pulled up to him. I know my son is hot-tempered. You understand? And the first thing I said, Haroon, let me tell you something right now. You don't have to entertain. You just tell them, I refuse. It's my right. I'm not doing anything. I'm at the light in front of my house. I'm minding my business. You mind yours. This is how we have to train our children. This is how I train mine. The way I train and the way how anyone else is totally different. I'm old school. You speak the truth, you tell the truth, and that's what's wrong with society and this government and this system. When you speak the truth, when you tell the truth, what's going on, it's like they want to silence you. For what? The truth? Are you serious? But we have to, as a people, as a body, as a human race, because today, Akai, tomorrow, your loved ones. That's all it is. We have to wake up.
One of the problems we have is when the police kill our loved one, they tend to always blame the victim. And that's a big problem. A lot of time they bring up their record, which has nothing to do with it at the time of the murder. You know, they do these things because once they put this record or whatever the situation might be out there, people get it in their head, okay, maybe they deserve it. Nobody deserved to get killed. When my son was killed, they put a video out there. 4 years later, they still say my son was running. And if it wasn't for the video, on 3 videos that show my son walking, I don't think I'd probably be sitting here today. People would have been judging my son that he had did something wrong. That's why he was running. So we have to stop listening to the media half of the time, because half of the stuff they put out there is not true. Back to the situation where Hertencia said, I've been hospitalized twice from just being in the street. Most of the family been hospitalized because we have to be on the forefront every day. I neglected my son because I had to be in the street fighting for my son that was killed. But I know I had to be out there because I'm fighting for him. Because every day I fear that he could be the next victim, and I refuse to make him become the next victim. He saw what happened to his brother, and I fear every day a police might stop him. He's 11, he just turned 11. Tamir Rice was 12. They start that young. And I fear every day that they might stop him, and he decide, I'm not going to stop for you. So am I going to have another dead child because he remember what they did to his brother? That's my biggest fear, and this is why I fight so much for my black and brown boys. I call them my brown because I adopted them. They are my sons, they are my daughters. Yes, they do kill young ladies. You saw in Meriam case. This is why we have to really take a stand. And like Hertencia said, stop saying it won't happen to you, it can't happen to me because I live in Scarsdale. You could get killed in Scarsdale because you're a black person, you don't belong there. This is how they look at us. So we have to stop the mindset that it can't happen to you, it's not my child. It takes a village to raise a child. And we have to go back to these days. We have to stop, a lot of times some of the old people, I know, you're scared. But if you take the time to just talk to a young man, pull your pants up, young man, this is not right. They will listen to you. Don't start clutching your pocketbook because you a black man and walking next to you, you think he's gonna rob you. Don't get that mindset. A lot of time they need guidance, and that's all they need. Just talk to them. Take the time, 5 minutes to talk to them and see what's going on. They just need, sometimes they just need somebody to talk to them. And this is, we got to continue these dialogue with young people and let them know you worth something. Stop knocking them down. You keep knocking them down, they're going to think they're worth nothing. We have teachers in school telling them they're worth nothing. You have mothers at home telling them they're worth nothing because they stress. Don't do this because we have a black president. They could be that next person. We have to keep pushing them and tell them they could be anything they want to be. Thank you.
And just want to let folks know, this would be the time, if you have any questions, to prepare those as we open up the floor for question and answer. And that there should be paper around. You should be able to write those down on a piece of paper just to prepare folks so that we can streamline the process.
I just want to say something. If you notice, whenever, like Constance said, whenever our loved ones are murdered, the first thing they pull up is their mugshot. So they're being victimized all over again. On top of that, whenever there is any type of altercation, who is there? Where does the media get the news from? The police officers. So you're having the lying police officers and the media, they have different stories or they have similar stories. But there's always 3 types of stories. There's theirs, and mine's. Mine's is, I know who my nephew was. I know how he was raised. And I know he was not the first nor the last black, brown, or Latino to ever sell drugs, stood up for his right, respect anyone. I know because I helped raise my nephew. You know, they make it seem as if they are the one and they deserve what happened. Then you have the media, you have people on social network saying, oh, he was a scumbag, he had 24 priors or whatever. These cops, they don't care. To protect their behinds, they do whatever they want to do. In my eyes, in my family eyes, there's no such thing as a good cop. Because if I see you harming another individual, forget about my uniform. That's a human being. Forget, if I have to lose my job, I'm going to lose my job. It's the moral thing to do. So until I see in my eyes where one good cop is going to stand up to his partner and tell everyone exactly what happened, there's no such thing as a good cop, and that's my belief.
You need a mic?
In regards to that good cop theory, Hertencia, when we had seen the cop, the black officer that stomped the black man's head in Brooklyn, when we were looking at the visual on that, it was a white cop that was bent down, and when he went to stomping, the white cop did that. So, not to say he a good cop, but at least he did that. Like he looked at him like, what the hell are you doing? And he did kind of, and that's one thing that I always try to carry forth, because we don't want to always say every cop is bad. But like Ms. Gwen said, there are some bad apples. There's a whole lot of bad apples. Before we move over to the next part, I just wanted to also kind of say something else in retrospect to Families United for Justice. We have been building Family United for Justice for 2 years now. And a lot of the families that are coming in after the founding members, which Ms. Gwen's daughter, Leisha, was one of the founding members to this group. Some people in the group have their own individual foundations and organizations that we wholeheartedly support and recognize. And I never did that for my aunt. But what I found was that while I was going with this organization and that activist and this and that, they wasn't really doing and saying the things pertaining to the needs of the families. So what we did was, like, I got me a team of people and talked about it, and it became, well, I want to have a meeting. So I called as many families as I could, and we got that meeting started. By the next week's meeting, it had doubled in size. So as we go from funeral to funeral to funeral, we often change and exchange information. Families are uniting. We are some of the very families on this panel and in this room that got the special prosecutor enacted by way of those fights. So we can get that accomplished. And some of the same families that tried to get that special prosecutor 20 years ago could not do it alone. But when we did it by the numbers, it was achieved. So it's a step in the right direction as far as I'm concerned. So when I speak of Families United for Justice, we have united on so many different fronts. And Families United for Justice, Nicholas Haywood was one of the founding members of that group too. And we would have those meetings in a room. And we would talk amongst ourselves, because we need to know who we gonna go forth with in this movement. Because although we know the cops got bad apples, some people don't come with their hearts in their hand and willing to give it to you. They're coming with hidden agendas, and we can't work in that matter, because we have already been abused. We have already been exploited. We have all been, misused in some form. So we need to know who we're going to work with and how we're going to work with them. There's enough room in this movement for everybody and everybody's way of thinking. We just need to be able to know that we can rock the way you roll, and you need to be able to rock the way we roll, and ask us. There's families right here, we can attest to the fact a lot of folks don't ask us nothing, but yet even Constance was having a memorial, and they went above the time and just decided we're going to do something in front of her memorial without even asking her. And this is what we all end up talking about. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up. But Families United for Justice, this is what it's come down to be. Instead of going to funeral, we've bonded and come together as a unit. And we are working with those who we have built bridges with. I've been building with Black Lives Matter for a whole year and learning what can be done and how it can be done. And they have been very instrumental, not only in my personal space, but other people's spaces too. And thank y'all. And I'm going to get with my family that may not know those attributes that you have contributed to and let them know, because this is what needs to be known. We need to know who's been with us and who's been not. So,
So we're going to take, I think, questions right now from the audience. This is for Ms. Carr spoke about making an impact before it's too late. Do any family members have plans to fight against the Blue Lives Matter bill in NYC that would make police assault a hate crime, particularly when they haven't received justice for their family? So that's the question for her.
It's so happening. I have a friend that just wrote up a proposal, and she's actually a writer from Harlem. They call her Miss T. The book is called Harlem Heroine, I believe. Miss T, that's my friend. I used to run with her back in the days. So she sent me a proposal where she is sending all these black council members and Congress people, and what she's going to do when she sends a letter to them, she's going to know who's with the black community or who's with the police. And this is when she's going to call everybody out that didn't sign on to that bill to fight against the Blue Lives Matter bill. Because we're not saying that blue life is not matter, but right now, as we see, black life is being taken on rapidly every day more than blue life. We're not saying their life doesn't matter, but we're talking about black life right now. That's what our problem is.
If we look for the past 2.5 years now that Black Lives has been in full effect, you look around, like Ms. Constance just said, it's Black lives. On top of that, no matter what color uniform a black person puts on, when we take it off, we're still black. When a Caucasian person put on a blue uniform and take it off, they're still Caucasian. They just want to just take away from what we have or what we're trying to establish here. As long as my people are being oppressed, being murdered, being shot, body being riddled with bullets, our life matter before anyone else's life. Technically, that's the way it's supposed to be. But because we are being murdered, black life matter. Then if you want the blue lives to matter, stop murdering the black life, period.
Yeah, I think we need to protest this bill because blue lives matter too much. If you take away a blue life, you know what? You get either 25 years to life in jail, the death penalty. Well, they took off the death penalty already. But you might not even come out of prison if you kill a blue life, which is a cop. So to me, blue lives matter too much. We need to boycott these bills.
When I speak today, I speak on all the experiences that I went through with law enforcement, and none of it is good. I mean, a year before my son was murdered, he was arrested forcefully for committing no crimes. He was actually kidnapped right in front of me. We were outside of our apartment. Me, his mother, and his younger brother. His younger brother was 5 years old at the time. Some cops came running in the community chasing some youth, and they ran. One of the kids ran in our direction. The police tackled him. We had a dog. The dog started barking. The officer pulled out his gun and told me to get that dog. He's going to shoot him. So I grabbed the dog and I brought him in the house. I came back outside. That same officer came over to us, pointed the gun in Nicholas's face, who was 12 years old at the time. And I immediately responded, "Yo, that's my son. He ain't doing nothing. What you doing?" He said, he turned and pointed the gun at me and told me to mind my business. He arrested Nicholas, brought him to the precinct. We drive down there. We was out there for about an hour. They finally brings Nicholas out and say, I'm sorry, that was the wrong guy. Nicholas tried to run out the door when he came down. I actually had to stop him. I asked Nicholas, what did they do to you when you was upstairs? He kept telling me, Daddy, let's go. I said, if you're going to go, just tell me what happened. He says that when he was upstairs, they placed him in the lineup. He said, I kept telling him I didn't do anything. And he said that the officer told him if he don't shut his mouth, they're going to take the gun and stick it up his butt and pull the trigger. They also told him he wouldn't live to be 15. Nicholas was a 12-year-old kid at the time, and this is what happened when he was in the precinct. I call that torture. After I started speaking out against the murder of my son, I became a target. I've been arrested 4 different times, 4 different occasions, all 4 times for the same thing. Walking my dog without a license when the license was hanging from his neck. The license was on the dog's neck, but still the officers gave me a ticket. They knew who I was. They know I was speaking out against the injustice of my murdered son, but yet they still targeted me. Here's another thing. My other son, who was 6 years old when Nicholas was murdered, with his last year in high school, he became a target also. They arrested Quentin his last year in school. They said he robbed a bodega directly across the street from where we lived at. The date they say that he committed this crime, he was actually in Queens on that date and time with his mother. But still, Brooklyn District Attorney prosecuted that case for a whole year, back and forth. At that time, Quentin was so, he was so angry and upset. I was fearful of the fact that he may not complete his school. I didn't know, I had to constantly, talk to Quentin so that he can complete this was his last year in high school. Back and forth to court. We ready to start trial. Some district attorney or somebody came into the courtroom and talked to the judge, and they have just dismissed the case. The reality is that when all of us up here on this panel, we are all targets because we're speaking out of the injustice of this corrupt, racist system. And that's why I say, we need to stand up for each other. We need to stay together. Families need to be together. And we need your support because this isn't an easy task. It really isn't. After 22 years of fighting and struggle and exposing the corruption of the system, I see that, they target your family. So to say that they're good cops and you can't tell me that because I don't see it nowhere. And like I said, I became a target. They target my son. It's just, there's no way that I'm going to be able to, to actually have any type of faith or trust in this system anymore.
Can I just say something real quick, Alan, about the Blue Life Bill? They want to propose this Blue Life Bill. We have enough problem with the police lying already. By you just talking back to them or touch them, you get a charge for a hate crime. So this is why we have to shut this bill before it even go into Congress. Because we're going to have even more problem with black people. Because if you just gesture by talking, I talk with my hands, that could use as a weapon. So we have to really shut it down before it even started. Like Nicholas said, they do target people. And when they can't get you, they go after your family, your young kids, and whatever. But we, again, have to stand up because we have black people. We are very powerful. We just not use it to our ability.
Just building off of what you said, Constance, the first one is that there's definitely a lot of emotions as we're leaving the space, and just to name the emotions that you're experiencing, what are the next actions that the families want to take that will make a difference? So we just mentioned the Blue Lives Bill and shutting that down. What are some other actions that folks in the room can take?
We have the Right to Know Act right now that we're pushing for. The Right to Know Act is where the police stop you, they have to give you a business card telling them telling you who they are, and you have to agree to the consent for them to search you. So this will help us a little bit more for them jacking us up and harassing us and they have to give us a card saying who they are, their ranks, and what precinct they're from, and their name. Because a lot of times they cover up their badge, you can't have their badge number, they cover up everything, so it's hard to even identify them when they stop you. It's be like a whole bunch of them, and you can't even tell who is who, because they're not telling you their name. Whenever you ask them their name, they tell you shut the F up, or I don't have to tell you this. Yes, you do have to tell me, you are here to serve me. So I have the right to know your name. So the Right to Know Act, we have to really push on that and make sure that goes through Congress.
Can you tell folks more about the lack of resources received by your family and what, again, movement leaders can do to support you?
Well, I didn't trust them to give me any resource, to be honestly. I was in my job, so I had coverage from my job. I was out of work for a whole year after the Ramondi got killed, and I choose not to use their service because I didn't trust them. I waited till when I went back to work, I started going back to my counseling.
You know, like Constance said, we can't depend on the system to take care of us. We got to take care of our own, and we have to thank God that most of us have our own resources as far as medical, and we're able to go and get counseling. Because even when the city or the state, they promise you money, well, I'm not getting any money because my daughter-in-law and her children, they'll get the money. You know, I don't get anything. But that's not what I'm here for. Because if it was about the money, I wouldn't be here today, because that I won't get, okay? I'm here for justice. And I'm not going to stop until I seek justice. And justice to me is when all the police who was involved that day in my son's killing stands accountable, and I'm trying to get them fired and in jail. That's justice for me. And any amount of money could never be justice. It's only they try to pacify you with giving you a few dollars. But even if I was getting money, the more money they give me, the more I'm going to talk and fight for justice, you know. So they can't put no gag order on me, because I'm going to be out here. I'm out here. This is my life. When you see me, you'll see that I'm speaking out for justice.
There was a gentleman here earlier. When I said, you know, we did something together as a whole. We now have coming forth, you know, with building with like Black Lives Matter and other organizations. Other organizations are recognizing the fact that we are together. And one of the gentlemen that left here earlier, he's from the health department. And I had a meeting with him in retrospect to what is it that the families need. And immediately after the trauma of learning that your family member has been murdered in such a way, the initial shock, even when my aunt was killed, my cousin was like, turn on the TV. And I'm like, I stood at the TV like the day of 9/11. And I'm like, and they're like, don't come to the building. And I'm like, you know, there's a shock there. And there's a shock there that ain't gone away. For me, it's been 13 years. Some less, some way more before me. You know what I mean? That initial shock is everlasting. And we need those healthcare providers that are going to give us some sort of counseling, the legal counseling. We can counsel each other all we want, because we're family. And we can talk and we can and do whatever, but it's that need of that professional that might help us to get where we gotta go. Right? So we got some people, I think we're on the right track by building with those very people who has those resources. And this is what it is for the families and us, and we're gonna this whole part. Like they said, it's not about money. But if it's about something that we need to get somewhere to go, help us get where we want to go. Whether it's to the Million Man March or whether it's to Chicago to be with that next family. That's what we're trying to achieve, because like Constance said, you see somebody got a settlement, that don't mean they got it yesterday or they getting it tomorrow. You know, it's hard for us. We've been bypassed for a long time.
Together to help the families go to the Million Man March. They didn't support us when we tried to go. We had to do it on our own, and we had to depend on each other. And, you know, thank God I had a woman from Jersey, a college professor, who sponsored me to go to the Million Man March. And, you know, it was just a blessing. She heard that we wanted to go, and she told me that she would sponsor me to go. And we do have good people out there.
I just want to say, right now, I don't know how many people in here know, right now, Millions March is occupying City Hall Park until demands are met. One of those demands was to have Bill Bratton fired, but eventually 2 weeks, once the information is posted, you know, letting them know that we're going to be occupying the park and everything, he mysteriously resigned. That's one person gone. Now this defund the NYPD and reparation for all families and victims of police brutality. They have been in the park now 9 days. Every Monday is People's Monday, where a different family, a different person that has been brutalized and murdered by NYPD or any police department nationwide, where they're showcasing that individual. Last night it was Corinne Gaines, and when I tell you New York City shut it down, Millions March, oh my goodness, it was so amazing last night, where you have these police officers, it's like they don't know what to do anymore, because now they're feeling, some of them are feeling our pain, so they want to feel our pain, that they just back off. But we have to come out into the community. You see a post, you guys are on social media, you see an organization at the park, support them, show up. This is how you become involved. This is how we are able to make a change. This is how we, as one, unified, we can make this happen. And we will make this happen by any means necessary.
Let's give a round of applause for all of our panelists. And panelists, please stand. And then we also want to acknowledge the family members that are in the room. They're not necessarily on the panel. If you could just please stand so we can acknowledge you if there are any other family members in the room.
Stephanie Skinner, Eric Gardner's cousin.
Angie McKay, aunt of Chantel Davis.
I can just say I'm a family friend of the Carey. Val Carey is my sister. We weren't my sister by blood. But just quickly, on October 3rd, we're having a bus ride to D.C. And I think it would be symbolic to have the families together and to go there, because for this to happen right, not far, you know, from the White House, it's just like unheard of. And for there to be a baby in the car, it's just unheard of. And the cover-up, just like Nicholas Hayward, you know, Sr. told you about, the cover-up in so many cases have experienced that. To me, that is such a grave cover-up, and so symbolic of the cover-up in all of these cases for that to happen. So everybody's invited. So stay tuned. I'm sure the memo will get out. It's October 3rd in D.C. It'll be a bus ride. So it'll be powerful to have us show up, you know. So that's it. Thank you.
My name is Donna Hayward. I'm the wife of Nicholas Hayward. I'm out here to support my husband. I'm not, let's make this clear, I'm not the mother of his child, but I am the mother of his child.
That's right.
Okay.
My name is Elizabeth Shipley. My brother, Andrew Shipley, was killed in 2015 all the way over in Oregon. But if there's one thread, aside from just the fact of police violence, that is common between his story and all these other stories, It's the immediate and meticulous campaign of misinformation that the police embarked on to put just blatant lies about what happened, who did what, to justify what they did, and then personally telling me, oh yeah, that's true, none of that turned out to be true, but never correcting it in the press. So the story that anybody can read is a lie, and the truth will never be exposed. And I know that's true for all of these families here, that they make a point of getting that message, that false message, that defaming the character of the person who died immediately, instantly. They blanket coverage it, and then they make sure that those, if possible, they try to make sure that those journalists never get any kind of retraction. So I've just recently found this group of people, and I'm very grateful that they accepted me in here, and I look forward to working with you all.
So in your pamphlets that you got, there's information on Families United for Justice as well as Black Lives Matter in New York City. And just to a testament to how we can organize quickly in this room, we're able to raise $182 just to support the transportation for all the families for the event. And so just something as little as that, there's a whole lot more we can begin to do. And so the hope and the intention is that for folks that are in the room, no matter what role that you play, what profession that you have, that it's really an opportunity for you to think about in your role, in your function, in your vantage point, at your job, in your community, in what ways can you support families that are impacted by state-sanctioned violence. These man-made disasters have to stop, and there are ways that we can all stand in our vantage points to be able to stand for these families, to be able to mobilize resources quickly and effectively. So again, I just want to thank you on behalf of Families United for Justice and BLM NYC, and to take care and have a great night.